Hello. Welcome to the Smile Revolution show. And I'm, as you see, Princess Wow, also known as Mindy Fradkin. We raise awareness to the healing power of a genuine smile. It's about giving and receiving smiles. I don't smile all the time, but sometimes I need you to remind me to smile. And so this is my 155th show since March 2020 when I started doing online shows, not interview shows, but I started doing variety shows to help people smile. And I had a radio show previously and years before for this project started in 2005. The last time I saw my dad conscious, he gave me a big grin, and that smile changed my life for the better because I had a very difficult relationship with him. And at the end of his life, I was with him in the hospital. And then when I was getting ready to leave, he gave me this big smile. So that's how this whole project started. If you've never seen my show, and if you have, sorry to listen to it again. And those of you in replay, whoever watches live, I always appreciate it. It's really great to get comments live, but it's also great whoever wants to watch if they can't watch it live. And I'm trying right now, I'm working towards doing these Thursdays at 8:00 Eastern time. Hopefully I can stick to that. That's what my goal is right now, starting this new year. And so anyway, I'm an entertainer, one-woman shows and singer-songwriter. And let's see, what else? I make hats and host interview shows, as you can see. And what else do I do? Oh, I'm a baker. I'm an avid baker. And anyway, so and I dress colorfully most of the time. Not really that colorful tonight, to help people smile and myself. So tonight I have a really exciting show. I've got Richard Barone, who's a dear friend, and thank Roland Musa and Pete Seeger, because that's how I met Richard in 2009 at the City Winery in New York City when Richard was producing an oil spill concert and Pete was headlining, and we brought him down with some other people from Beacon, New York. And so that's when we met, and we've been friends ever since. And I just finished his amazing book, Music Plus Revolution, Greenwich Village in the 60s, and forward by Anthony DeCurtis. It's so incredible that I mean, I wish I could talk to Richard for 3 hours on my show, but I'm not going to do that, but I would like to, because it's so, every page is just so riveting. And some of the people in the book I know, but there's things I didn't know about them. And then there's people who I didn't even know about. So it's an incredible book. And so happy that Richard finally, he came out with this. It's so incredible. So I'm looking forward to talking about it tonight in a little bit. So let's see, wait a minute. Somebody wants to say hello. I can't. She just loves being on the show. This is Mini Me, Miss Wow. And it's from an outfit of mine with my pink wig. I have many wigs, if you don't know me. But this is my real hair. Everybody thinks this is a wig, but this is I have a lot of hair. And then, well, someone else wants to say hello. Gumby wants to give you a big smile and a hug. Always very friendly. And whoops. And let's see. And I have this. This is always good. Find joy in each day. And not saying it's always easy, but if you can try to focus on gratitude and focus on the good, it helps you smile. Okay, so let's see. For my radio show, I have all these quotes and everything. So let's see. This is interesting. Mark Twain said, "Wrinkles should merely indicate where smiles have been." And let's see. If you're not using your smile, you're like a man, or I'll say, or woman, with $1 million in the bank and no checkbook. Phyllis Diller said, "A smile is a curve that sets everything straight." And let's see. Then I have, okay. "A winning smile makes winners of us all." Source unknown. "A smile is a light in the window of the soul, indicating the heart is at home." That's unknown. Okay, now I have to read this. I just found this, actually. This was from my radio show, and I feel like I have to read this tonight. Okay, so I had an occasional co-host on my radio show. It was Kingston, New York. Somebody made a comment. Let's see, Roland. Oh, wait. Roland just said, in the future, we'll learn your programs will be historical to the music historians. Oh, thank you. It's not all musicians, though. I interview authors, directors, let's see, musicians, artists. Anyway, okay, but thank you. Okay, Robert Reedy was a occasional co-host of mine on my show, and I just found this poem that he wrote, and I just feel like I need to read it. You may ask, poet, what is truth? I will tell you, truth is many things, and you may add to this list. Truth is the laughter of children and delighting in the success of another, or holding hands to a color-filled sunset, spreading your joys, getting over the toys, uplifting everyone you encounter, comforting the oppressed, lending a hand, making a meal for someone else, having the time, beholding the mystery of not knowing, to look up and be amazed by the stars, winking back, to make love slowly, to communicate honestly and become more authentic. Fall in love with yourself and find your unique capability, ability, talent, or gift, and nurture it to fullness. For to know yourself is to love yourself. Be ready to forgive and forgive yourself. Cultivate the art of not being offended. Laugh at yourself, laugh with others, and enter its healing power. Smile. Be willing to give from what you have become. Gather together as family and be fans of one another. Build and develop friendships. Be there for them and delight in their uniqueness. Sing and dance to their successes. Exercise and be aware of your body. Feel it and believe in your wellness. Open to the beauty that surrounds you and know the beauty to be love itself, saturating all there is. Believe in your creativity. Believe in humanity's potential. Be positive, be happy, be at peace, become love, become the love that you already are, and know that this to be the truth. Forgot about this poem. Anyway, oh, thanks, Laura's on. Oh, okay, yeah, that was really good. Okay, so my story of the night is, okay, so Richard Barone produced this music video. I think it was maybe Pete Seeger's only music video, Richard. I think. I mean, he was filmed in concerts, but anyway, so Richard produced this concert for this song, God's Counting on Me, God's Counting on You, which I'm in. We're going to show it. And so we were living in, it was when Roland and I were married, and we were living in Beacon, and Richard and wait a minute, Richard. Okay, wait. Richard and his the musical partner, he'll tell me. I'm skipping my Billy. Wait a minute, Matthew Billy. Sorry. They stayed overnight because they needed to be close to in Beacon because we filmed it in Beacon. They filmed it in Beacon, and so they stayed over. And Richard still taught. He wrote an article about how I baked the best cookie of 1962. And we made dinner. I made dinner and everything, and they slept over, and it was really great. And so, anyway, it was filmed on the Clearwater boat and in Beacon, and it was really historical. And like 200,000 people have seen the video, and you're going to see it in a little bit because it's such a great song and video, and it was produced so well. So, anyway, I think that I'm going to get Richard on. And wait, I have to give you a little bit of his bio if you don't know who Richard is. Okay. So Richard is a recording artist, performer, producer, and author. Since pioneering the indie rock scene in Hoboken, New Jersey as frontman of the Bongos, and then helping to launch the chamber pop movement with his solo debut, Cool Blue Halo, Barone has produced countless studio recordings and worked with artists in every musical genre. His list of collaborators includes Donovan, the late Lou Reed, and folk legend Pete Seeger. He has scored shows and staged all-star concert events at venues such as Carnegie Hall, the Hollywood Bowl, and SummerStage in Central Park, where I was there and on stage. Ron and I were singing at the end. It was it was one of the best days of my life. Thank you, Richard. His album, Sorrows and Promises, and his latest book, Music Plus Revolution, are celebrations of the 1960s music scene in Greenwich Village, New York City, where Barone lives. He teaches Music and Plus Revolution at the New School of Jazz and Contemporary Music and hosts folk radio on WBAI New York. And really, his bio is much longer, but I asked him for as a short bio, and here he is.
Hi there. Hi,
Hi.
Mindy. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm better now that I'm seeing you.
I'm happy to see
Yeah.
you too.
Yeah. I haven't seen you in person, and I don't think I've seen you in years. I missed your events in person in the fall. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
wish I regret not coming.
We'll do more things. We'll do more things.
Yeah. No, I know. I'll see
Yeah,
you in person this year. I'm sure of that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'll see you soon. Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
good. But anyway, it's great to see you here.
Great to
And
be here.
thanks for taking the time to be on my show. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anything for you, Mindy. Anytime.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway,
It's true.
so well, we've been friends now since 2009.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
And
while.
I knew we'd be friends. You were so gracious, and it was so much fun to meet you. And I knew we'd be good friends for a long, long, long time.
Well, we clicked right away, Richard.
Yeah.
I was wearing
Yeah.
a blue wig, an aqua wig with aqua head to toe. Remember?
Yeah, I do. I remember. How could I not love that?
I know, right? I know. It's right. Exactly. So
Yeah.
anyway, your book, Richard, I just really, it's so incredible. Every single page, the research, I don't know how, it's like amazing. So, but you really started it years ago because you have the album Sorrows and Promises, which is 60s, right?
Yeah.
Greenwich Village, right? And then you did the SummerStage event. You did all these things prior and all these events before you were you writing the book, or you weren't even writing it then?
Just in my head. It was just in my head because I love the music so much. So it really came out of the love of the music. And when I made the album, each time I did a song by one of the writers, I would study about them. So then I started getting all this information. I said, wow, what is, Janice Ian and Eric Anderson and, some Bob Dylan, there's so many. And so their stories were just circulating in my mind. And then when the pandemic hit and I couldn't do any shows.
Right.
And I was just home here in my kitchen in Greenwich Village, I had the time to finally write it down.
Right.
So, I had done a show at Joe's Pub at the Public Theater in, I guess, 2018 or so. And the book publisher was in the audience. And after the show, he asked me, it's about time for your second book, isn't it? Because I had written a book in 2008 called Frontman.
Which I've read.
Thank you. And it's the same publisher. And he said, isn't it about time for your second book? And I said, well, yeah, but what should I write about? He goes, what you just played on the show tonight, Greenwich Village in the 1960s. So I couldn't do it until the pandemic hit because I do a lot of shows and, how I am.
I know. And you're producing other people.
And teaching. And
and you're teaching.
But everything slowed down in 2020. So I called the publisher and I said, okay, I'm ready to write the book now. Right. So I turned everything else off and I just started writing. And every time I would write, it would make me want to research something because a name would pop up or somebody would mention somebody else that would lead to the next thing. And pretty soon I was just deep in research.
That's amazing. So, so that's basically what you did for 2.5 years.
Yeah, right? It really was. That's all I did because I very few shows during that time.
Right.
If any, only online, like we're doing now.
Yeah.
Things like this, and but otherwise, I just wrote. I made the kitchen my office because I like to, I like snacks, and I like, how much I like your baked goods.
My cookies too.
I love your cookies, but being in the kitchen was very comforting. And I have a window that looks at Waverly Place. So I was able to kind of feel the village outside the window. And so I just put all my research books and everything in the kitchen and made that my writing room. And it was
that's right where it happened and right where it all happened.
Yeah, because and
even your street.
Yeah.
I know. Waverly, like some of them live there.
I know. So I just imagine I'm walking still, I look out the window and because it was the pandemic, there was hardly anybody in the streets. So I could walk around and pretend that they were there. The people I'm writing about. Yeah. It made it very, very immersive for me. Like I was really in it. I was really in this story as I wrote it.
It was meant to be, Richard. I mean, because if it wasn't a pandemic, there were so many silver linings. I know. In the pandemic. Because
and this was one.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And then, okay. So do you want to talk about, let's see, there's just so many things to talk about though.
I know.
And there are people like Paul Clayton, who I never heard of.
Yeah. And he was very important. And he was very much like Pete Seeger. Like he loved the old folk music, the really old stuff. And he was a collector. He was a young guy. He was like in high school, he already had a folk radio show while he was in high school.
Oh,
And
wow. I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little mention of the book. It's like one sentence, but he had his own radio show. And he was like a prodigy of folk music. He loved it, even at age, 17 or something. And so he would travel the country learning folk music from the actual people that lived down south and everything, And he collected a lot of songs. And but he was a young guy, and this was the early 60s, late 50s, and he brought them back to Greenwich Village and would perform these songs. And I think he was very influential to people like Bob. I know he was influential to Bob Dylan because that was like his best friend. And he would show these songs to Bob Dylan and others. And pretty soon they were doing these songs too,
Right.
But now we don't know Paul Clayton. Now his name is one of the ones that, like many in the book, who now we don't know anymore,
Right. Yeah. Well, I learned all about him, right? And then he had some problems. I know.
He didn't feel he didn't feel like he fit in, and it was maybe he was a little bit ahead of his time, and he couldn't fit in, and it wasn't good for him. People have to read the book to see what happened, but
I know. Really, I don't really want to spoil it.
I know.
Because but
it's still.
But he still had a lot of albums.
Yes.
Didn't he have a lot of 20 albums?
Like 20 albums by the time he was like early 20s. Yeah, he was the most recorded young folk singer was Paul Clayton, and now we don't know him. It's Donovan. Never heard of him. Right, it's Donovan who told me, Richard, you should write about the people that nobody's heard of. That's where the great stories are, and he was right.
Yeah. I know, which is really interesting. And then there's just so many. The Buddy Holly story. With him.
Right here in the Village, a few blocks away, Buddy Holly. People don't talk about it, but at the end of his life, at age 22, sadly, he died.
In the car crash, in the plane crash.
Plane crash. And he lived right on 8th Street by Washington Square Park. He's just a few blocks from here, and he was learning about folk music, and so I think if he would have lived, we would have seen like that folk rock thing happen 5 years before it did.
Oh,
because he was
wow.
ready. He was already listening to folk music, and his friend Carolyn Hester was teaching him folk songs. So Buddy Holly was learning, and he loved it. So I believe that he would have already been doing mixing his rock and roll with folk music. Later the Byrds did it and everybody did it, but I think he would have done it first.
Okay. So
but he died.
I know, and then he just gotten married.
Yeah, 6 months. He's only married. It's a sad story, but his sad story, that legacy and the legend that he left behind was a big inspiration to those next folk singers like Bob Dylan and Phil Oakes. They loved Buddy Holly because Buddy wrote so many of his own songs, and they thought, wow, if he wrote songs, I can write songs too. It's like that.
Right.
It's a great inspiration. He was a great inspiration.
Oh yeah, and then what about let's see. Wait a minute. There's so many. Oh, and then
I know.
There's just so many. Jose Feliciano, his story.
So great. So great. And such a great player, such a great guitar player,
The other thing I want to say about it is, like, what's so cool about your book too is that a lot of these people, well, the ones who are alive now, you know a lot of them.
Yeah.
I know that, but the reader's not going to they're going to be like, how does he know all these?
I know.
But that makes it really cool too.
Thank you. And some of them I didn't really know Tom Paxton that well, but then we became good phone friends because I would call him and say, Tom, can you tell me about this or that? And he was so gracious with his storytelling, and he was able to explain to me how it felt because he was in the Army, and he would come to the Village, never in his uniform. Like some people there's a movie called Inside Llewyn Davis.
And I saw that.
And it's cool. But there's a character that's based on Tom Paxton, but he's in uniform in the Village, and he said, I would never have worn my uniform. His Army uniform in the Village. He tried to not make that a big deal. He hated the war, and he soon was able to leave the Army. And many of his songs are anti-war songs. But people like Tom Paxton, I didn't really know him, but he became a friend through writing the book.
Well, the other thing is that most people were home. They weren't touring either, so you could get a hold of people too.
Yes, that's exactly
That was
right.
the
They were
other
home.
thing.
They were home.
They were home just hanging out, like, wait, so you could talk to them for hours, probably.
I did. They picked up the phone. I say, "Hey, Tom, it's Richard."
And
It became
sitting home. So,
yeah. It was very good.
It was meant to be, Richard.
Buffy St. Marie was a great interview. I called her on the phone, and we had a long chat. And
she's so great. She's so
great.
Inspiring.
So
we
had some wonderful conversations, and that's really what made the book alive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because like you meet these people firsthand, and you're like, oh, and so told me this, and you're like, oh my God, like that is so cool.
And Tiny Tim, he passed away in the 90s, but I knew him. So I was able to remember what he told me. A lot of it I recorded too. So I had tapes. I could listen back to recordings I did of him.
That's amazing. I know, that's so cool.
So when he speaks in the book, that's from my tapes. I mean, he is actually saying those things, I didn't make it up. You can't make it up.
You can't make this stuff up with Tiny Tim. I know. So anyway, so I have here, you interviewed 56 people.
Yes.
And then you had 9 personal conversations of people who are no longer, I guess, like people who are not here anymore.
And of those people that you listed there, many of them I spoke to many times. So in the book, I listed the dates. Some of them you'll see that I spoke to 5 times or 6 times.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So really, I did over 80 interviews for the book.
Oh, okay. Including you did interview Roland Musa too.
I did interview Roland. Roland was great. Roland comes toward the end of the book because he arrived in the late 60s, and a lot of the book is early 60s.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That's right.
Because
68 or 69.
68, and so much of the story is like 61, 62, 63,
you're right.
64.
Right. That's right.
I might do a second book that picks it up from 68 to through the 70s.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So Laura Molitor, my friend from Austin, she's got the band Rare Birds in Flight. I've told you about her.
Of course.
Yeah, I love the focus on the unsung musical heroes.
It's really important to this book because so many times, I'm writing from the point of view of a musician. My interest is in the music, not the celebrities. I like celebrities are fine, but that's not what this book is about. It's about real musicians and real people.
Right.
So like I said, Donovan gave me great advice when he said, write about the ones no one's heard about.
Yeah.
It's true.
It really is, because like even just learning about Paul Clayton is amazing.
Yeah, I know.
And then when your photos I love the photos.
Thank you. They're all by David Garr, who I met in the 90s, and he was an amazing photographer who loved the Greenwich Village scene in the 60s. So he photographed everybody backstage and not posing. That's what I like about these photos.
I love them. I love the pictures.
Yeah, they're not posed. They're usually
Richie.
I love that. Richie's tuning up backstage at Carnegie Hall. He's going to perform. That's getting ready to perform at the Woody Guthrie Memorial Tribute.
And I knew Rich. I knew
Richie
recorded one of Roland's songs with Tom Pico.
So great.
Here's Buffy.
Beautiful. She's getting ready to go on stage also. These are all just like candid photos by David Garr.
And I love the Loving Spoonful one.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah.
I know. They're all great pictures.
Yeah.
And that adds a lot too. And then, okay. So you know what? I want to talk about Pete Seeger a little bit, because I want to show that God's counting me, God's counting you. Okay. So now, wait, Laura said something though. So let me see. Let me post what she wrote.
Of course.
Such interesting stories and wonderful listening and sharing, Richard. So faithful to cause of sharing these stories of an amazing time in music in this country.
Thank you. Well, I really feel, as a musician, it's part of my duty is also if I learn things, is to share that. And that's what I do with my students at the new school. And that's what I do with the book. It's like, if I'm learning it, why shouldn't I share it?
Yeah.
It's like, I feel it's part of my job.
You're a great writer, Roland.
Thank you.
You're a great writer.
Thank you.
It's so easy to read. Like every page is like so fascinating.
Thank you.
I mean, really, that's something like every page, I'm like, oh my God, it's like so riveting. Like, I can't wait to read the next page.
Well, that's how it was for me to write it. I couldn't wait to write the next page because it was so much energy coming to me.
Yeah.
I felt the spirits of these people around me, like Dave Van Ronk. And, I had his wife on the phone a lot, Terry Thal.
Yeah, I met her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. And like, she was telling me these stories, and it was so real to me. And it felt like it was happening now.
And you can feel it when you're reading it. That's what I'm saying. You feel like the energy and like excitement. You really feel it. It comes across in your book.
Thank you.
That's why I've been like raving about your book like constantly. Like I'm like, this book is just so amazing.
Well, I can honestly tell you that I felt like it was happening now when I wrote it. Like I didn't feel it was old history because as I wrote it, I was learning it too, a lot of it, and it was new for me. It was happening now. You know?
Yeah. Okay,
so,
that's cool. Yeah.
And then when I got on the phone and talked to them, they were alive and they were talking to me. And then I'd remember Tiny Tim.
And then you're talking to all these people. Right. I mean, that is like amazing.
And so it became very real. It wasn't like history. It was like real life, you know?
Yeah. And you feel it. Okay. Roland said, yes, Richard, thanks for helping us all in understanding of the music world, even though I lived it. He did. He lived it.
Yeah. Roland is, you know, he's an important part of the story because Roland and talking to Roland, and I met him the same day that I met you, Mindy, you know, but
that's right. You met him on stage.
But yeah, I got to sing with him as soon
as
I met him. I was singing with him on stage.
Right.
And you know, he has so much to offer because he was there and he lived it.
Oh, he has so many stories, and I don't even know half of them. I mean, because it would take, that's why he has to write his book too.
He should.
No, he's got to, because he's got. Oh, it's amazing. I know. So anyway, okay. So Pete Seeger. So how did you meet Pete?
So really, I met Pete a few times. One, George Wein was the great concert producer, and I met Pete through George Wein. I was producing some concerts. You know, George is famous for the Newport Folk Festival, the Newport Jazz Festival, and many jazz festivals and folk festivals around the country.
Right.
I was producing some shows for him in the 2000s. I did a tribute to Peggy Lee, which was wonderful, and George Wein presented it. So through George, at that time, I met Pete Seeger. I was thrilled because as a child, Pete's music meant a lot to me. He was the first singer who really made me see the power of music because he was singing songs of anti-war songs. Mm-hmm. The one I remember when I was a little kid was Bring 'Em Home.
Right.
And it was about bring the boys back from Vietnam, bring them home, bring them home. If you love your Uncle Sam, bring him home, you know.
Right.
And it was that even as a child, that really moved me. So I was thrilled to meet Pete. And I was hoping we could work together. I couldn't figure out how. Right. And then when I had the opportunity to produce the benefit for the oil cleanup, for the BP oil spill, everyone I asked, who should I have in the show? They also, we have to ask Pete Seeger.
Right.
So I called Pete, and I had only met him briefly through George Wein, but I said, this is Richard Barone. We've met, and I would love it if you would come and perform with us. And he immediately said yes.
That's great. That's really cool.
And then he told me that he had just written a song that mentions the oil spill.
Oh, okay.
And, you know what I mean? So I said, well, Pete, Mr. Seeger, have you recorded it yet? And he said, no, we just wrote it. And I said, would you like to record it? And he said, yes. So I said, well, let's find a way that we can record it and maybe make a video for that, because he didn't really understand the power of YouTube.
Right.
And how we could reach so many people on YouTube. Right. So Matthew Billy and I, Matthew had grown up as a huge Pete Seeger fan also.
Oh, I didn't know that. And Roland too, before he met Pete. Roland
so all of us, because Pete was the granddaddy of them all,
Right.
And we all loved Pete. So then Matthew said, I told Matthew, I said, why don't we try, because Matthew's an engineer. So I said, maybe we should try to record Pete doing this song. And that's how it all came together with the video and how you and I met and everything really came together.
And then you got, when was that, 2010?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got Damian Drake, the filmmaker.
Yeah. So I knew Damian. I had met him on a plane ride once when I was going to LA. And I knew I just had a good feeling. He does very good music videos. Mm-hmm. And I thought, Pete had never really made a proper music video.
I know.
Yeah. Right. Because there are videos of him performing, but it wasn't like something.
Not like a real creative music.
Right. It wasn't planned. And so I said, Pete, you've never made a music video. And he chuckled. Oh, I know. I said, we should make a video. So he said, let's do it on the boat. And I said, the boat? He goes, yeah, the Clearwater.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came together. And Roland helped coordinate the date and time so that the boat was in Beacon when it needed to be.
Right.
And then we could film that day. Right. And we knew that Pete would sing really well early in the morning. So we planned for a 9 a.m. start. so
Okay,
that we could get a fresh vocal. And, he sounds great on that record. And other producers called me and said, how did you get Pete to sound so good? I said, I just let him sing. He wanted to sing in the morning. And he was a morning person.
Yeah.
And 9 a.m. was good for him. So that's when we did it.
Okay, so let's show. You want to show the video? Should we?
Yes, do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on 1 second. Now I'll take you off and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, here we go. You're not going to believe this. I had a tech issue. I can't. I don't know. It's not working.
It's okay.
Oh well.
People can find the video though if they go to YouTube.
Yeah, let's just do it that way because I don't know what happened.
Yeah, they go to YouTube and look for Pete Seeger, God's Counting on Me, God's Counting on You, Sloop Mix, we call that, because that was done on the Sloop Clearwater.
Right. Sorry about that, everyone. That's never happened. I'm having it.
Hey,
it happens.
Things happen. We're okay. We're okay.
Thank you. Okay. Well, anyway, you all can see it if you haven't seen it. A lot of my friends have seen it, but if you haven't.
Well, you have a great role in that, and Pete, gets a great smile out of your outfits always, and I could tell he really enjoyed having you as part of the crew on that. I'm not part of the bunch on the boat.
I know he kissed me when I got off the boat. I think I told you he actually kissed me after the shoot.
Yeah, he said that your outfits brought a lot of joy to people. The way you would, the colors and everything that you wore were very. Made people happy, and he was absolutely right.
Oh, he told you that? Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So, also I brought my smile stickers and my smile balloons.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Yeah. And he loved that. It's
part of the video. Yeah, it's part of the video.
It's part of the video, and with the children.
Yeah, they put the sticker on the oar or whatever it is. Yeah, and it's a beautiful video. Damian Drake really should get credit too for filming that at the last minute, because we didn't really know we were going to make a video. It didn't, even though we knew we wanted to do it, it happened quickly when it actually happened, and we had to pull that together to get Damian and his crew on the boat and filming us, and he was a real trooper and did that for us.
It all worked out. It's an amazing video. It really, and the song is so great too.
Beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I like how, because Damien did work for the Discovery Channel and other nature shows, you get a lot of this, the views of the river from Beacon on that video.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Eric Anderson. Now that story with him, I know you know Eric.
Yeah.
The thing with Eric is fascinating because it connects with Brian Epstein from the Beatles.
Yes.
I mean, Brian was gonna represent him, right?
Yeah. Brian Epstein. Brian Epstein was a very smart manager, and he doesn't get credit always for being the Beatles manager. People say, "Oh yeah, he wasn't a great manager." He was actually an excellent manager for the Beatles. The business, as we know it now, the music business, didn't exist before then. Mm-hmm. So he was a young guy. He was 32 when he passed, Brian. So he was very young. Yeah. So he was in his 20s when he managed the biggest rock or any act of all time at that time.
I know, right?
And he was in his 20s managing this huge band. I think he did a fantastic job. And one of the things was he was always looking for new talent, and he was very smart to look to Greenwich Village. Mm-hmm. Because he knew, the Beatles. He was English, but he knew that the Greenwich Village scene was happening.
Right.
And so he had his eye on Eric Anderson to be an important figure. Right. And he signed him to be his manager. And he brought him over to England, met the Beatles. He brought Eric to the recording sessions for Sgt. Pepper.
Yep.
And Eric was there. So Eric got, firsthand experience of that kind of fame and the kind of power the Beatles had.
Yeah.
but so sadly, Brian passed soon after that, and then
Right. I
Eric
know.
was left without any of that, unfortunately.
I know.
Eric, I want to add one thing about Eric Anderson. For one, well, two things. One, he's a great artist still.
I know.
He's a great songwriter and performer, and very smart and poetic. His lyrics are some of the most like poetry
Yes.
that of any of the songwriters. And also, there's a new album out that your listeners might like.
Okay.
That it's put together by Eric, but it's other people doing his songs.
Oh, right.
Including Dylan, and I happen to be on that album. And
I know.
He's got a great lineup. I don't have it all in front of me. I might have it somewhere here on my desk, but people should look it up. It's a new album, the Eric Anderson, like double 2 CD set of people doing his songs.
That's amazing. That is so cool.
It's called The Song Poet, I believe, the album, and it's really, really good.
Well, that's, he has there's a documentary about him I've seen called The Song Poet.
That same, this is like the album, the same idea, but instead of him doing his own songs, it's all these other artists, Rick Danko, and just one after another. It's really good. I think you'd like it. Yeah.
Well, that's really neat. Yeah. And the mood have you seen the documentary?
Yes, I love the documentary. I loved it.
Great. It was really great. Now Laura's saying something else. Hold it. Enjoying the story behind the making of the video and the descriptions of it all by such a great storyteller.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, but Laura, you should watch the video. It is on YouTube, and it's gotten a lot of views now. So
like over 200,000. Now I think Laura's seen it because she's one of my best friends.
Okay, good.
When it came out, she saw it years ago. But Laura, maybe you need to see it again. It's so good. I know it's such a great video.
I'm happy that Matthew and I could do that for Pete because I'll never forget showing him the YouTube site.
You didn't know anything about all
and
that.
Showing him, I showed him, look at the numbers of the people that see the videos on here, because otherwise if he's playing to a small gathering, that's a certain number of people, but to reach hundreds of thousands,
right,
you have to do something else, and YouTube helped him do that.
Right, I know. I'm so glad, and I'm so glad I was part of it because
you're a big part of it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. No, it was such a great day. It was really fun.
And plus, I got to watch, because we stayed at your house the night before. I got to watch you bake.
Right, 19th best cookie of 1962.
I love that. That was really great.
Fun. So anyway, and then the SummerStage that day, that was one of the best days of my life too.
Well, some of the artists that that are in the book, of course, were in that concert with us.
I know, right?
And John Sebastian. And some of the things they would tell me, even on stage or in the book, like little aside things that they would whisper, came from that concert, because they were all in one place, right in Central Park.
Yeah. I know.
And Jose Feliciano, you were mentioning him before, and he actually thought that they all didn't like him. He thought he was hated because he was such a great guitar player, like a virtuoso.
People were like jealous of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He thought that John Sebastian and the others wouldn't like him because he was kind of a different type of musician. Jose was like I said, a virtuoso.
Right.
And it was just the opposite. They all loved him. They were so happy to reunite, and everybody was hugging, and it was just a great experience to be part of that and to see that.
It was so great to meet him and everything. It was so neat. And then let's see who else was there. Maria Maldar, Melanie,
and Jesse Colin Young was great that night.
Yeah, and they're all in the book, right? I mean, about all of them.
Yes.
And then let's see, and Happy Traum, he was there, right?
Yes, Happy was
right
there.
About him a lot too, and he read the book with him. He's in the end.
He's in the ending because he actually spoke to my class.
I know,
at the new school, and that's when the students said, that's how the book ends. I don't want to give away the ending, but the book ends in 2021, and it ends with Happy Traum because he had just spoken to the class, and he's with my students, and that's how we end the book.
It was neat the way you ended it.
Thank you. Well, I was trying. It really was. I didn't know how I was going to end it until that happened.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this book could go on forever, So it's like I actually had a certain number of pages I was supposed to write in. I went way over that number.
Oh, okay. And
so I said, I've got to find a way to wrap this up. And that ending just
unfolded.
It just unfolded by itself. Yeah, it's great.
That's really neat. So that'd be great if you write a part 2, like early 70s.
Yeah, I would like to.
That would be cool.
I would like to.
All right, now let's see who else. Eric Anderson. And then you also Carolyn Hester, which I never really knew anything about
Yes.
her.
Yeah. Well, she was amazing. Carolyn Hester was important for many reasons. For one thing, she's fantastic as a singer herself. Her albums are great on Columbia Records and even the ones on smaller labels before that that she recorded for. She was friends with Buddy Holly, and her producer on her first album when she was a very young person. Her first album was produced by Buddy Holly's producer. So the Buddy Holly's band and Buddy are hanging around the studio watching her do a folk album, you know? That was back in Texas.
Okay.
Actually in Clovis, New Mexico. But then eventually she got signed to Columbia Records. So she connects the 50s with Buddy Holly. You know, she worked with Buddy and they were friends.
Right.
But then she comes to New York and who is her harmonica player but Bob Dylan?
Right. Oh, well,
Bob Dylan is playing harmonica for her.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And you know, he was at her show and he said, "Can I please play for you? He loved her, wanted to play music with her." And so then he's the harmonica player for her. And that's how he gets discovered by Columbia Records. They sign him on the spot in the recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
So she connects the 50s with Buddy Holly to the 60s with Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think she's also, her own albums, that's not to say that her own albums aren't great, but she happens to have also worked with these icons. But to me, she's also an icon. I mean, when the folk scene was really becoming popular, she was like a poster girl for the folk singers. She was on the cover of Saturday Evening Post magazine, which was like a big magazine, like Life magazine. Yeah. She was on the cover as the folk singing girl with her guitar, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
She was the symbol for the female folk singer.
Okay.
So she was a star. It's just that things happened quickly. And then pretty soon, her harmonica player, Dylan, and his crowd becomes the new stars.
Right. Yeah.
You know? But she was very important in kicking things off for that.
Okay.
I love her. She also gives great interviews. I interviewed her several times for the book.
Well, she came into that right before at the Iridium. She was there playing.
She was at the Iridium, and then she came when I did my first book launch here in New York City. Was at the Museum of the City of New York.
Oh, and she was there.
And
right. Okay.
She came all the way from Kansas City, Missouri, to come perform just for that one night.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's really great. Well, there's so many people. It's just Joan Baez. I mean, we could go on and on. Joan Baez is in there.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. And really such a beautiful voice. You know, some of them, they each had different. Some were more for their singing, others for their writing. Mm-hmm. And Joan Baez just had a perfect voice. You know?
I know, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, wait, Roland said, Rich, so important you continue the history of music. Many are dying. All right, David Paul.
I know. Rest in peace. We just found out right before we went on the air tonight. Yeah, but it's so sad. You know, that's why I really feel like it needs to be put together for people to share while they're alive. I want to celebrate these musicians and then write about them so that other future generations can enjoy them too.
Exactly, and know about them because some of them are famous and some aren't.
I know.
They're important to the whole scene.
Yeah.
And Dave Von Ronk.
Dave Van Ronk, he helped so many of them. They called him the mayor of McDougal Street.
He was like the mayor of,
because that was the street where all the venues were, and he really got them gigs. And Dylan slept on his couch for months. You know, I mean, everybody knew him, and he gave good advice to them too. I think very smart guy.
Yeah, he was like the center of the scene.
And then he was arrested. He was the only one of the few people arrested during the Stonewall riots. Did you notice that in the book?
Right, yeah.
Because he was rebellious, and he didn't want. He didn't feel it was right that the cops were closing down on the Stonewall Inn, which was a LGBT community. So he was fantastic. What a character! One of my favorite characters in the book is Dave Van Ronk.
Oh, okay. And then he was married to Terry Tall.
Yeah. Yep.
Terry Thal. How do you pronounce Thal?
Thal, yeah. And she was Dylan's manager and also the manager for the Holy Modal Rounders, so I know you know.
Oh, I never heard of them.
I know.
Before the book, and they're so great.
They're great. Yeah. I love their Mr. Spaceman song.
Okay, I'll have to listen to that.
It's really cool. It was actually, they would take songs and kind of rewrite them. That was an old song called Mr. Bassman, and they made it Mr. Spaceman, and they made it kind of a really fun song. And
then there's, of course, Terry Roach.
Yes.
And the
Roach sisters. See, they come toward the end because they really carry the tradition of those village folk singers into the 70s.
Okay.
Because they like Roland, they also arrived around 68-ish.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, around that. And
They were good friends with Roland, and
I
Roland's
know.
still good friends with Terry. Yeah.
Yes, it's so great. I love seeing them together. And so yeah, that's how the Roaches get into the story, is really toward the end. And I'm
Oh,
very
okay.
close with Terry also, you
I
know.
know. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it till the book. Like, you've been friends there for a long time.
Yeah, we've written many songs together. We performed together in so many different shows and things
Yeah,
over the
right.
years.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing her in February.
Oh, she'll be a great
That's her
interview
new
for you.
book.
Yeah.
Her new book.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The
It's an
book is
amazing book.
it's an amazing book. It's an album and a book in one.
I know, it's incredible.
With
It really is cool.
every page has a QR code that leads you to a song.
I know, it's really neat.
It's
like
great.
super cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I've already read it, and it's really neat.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Roland from that when we were down the village with you all, with you
Yeah.
and Terry.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of the two of them, and then he has a whole page. She wrote a whole bunch of stuff about him.
Yeah, she really admires Roland a lot.
I know. But that was great.
Yeah.
But anyway, Richard, I could talk to you for 3 hours, but however, I like to keep my shows kind of like within.
Yeah, that's smart. But we can do it again whenever you like. I always love talking with you. And anytime you want to do anything, we can do a part 2 and talk about the things we didn't talk about this time.
Yeah, that'd be great, because there's so much. And is there anything else? Okay, so your books are everywhere, it sounds like.
The books everywhere, and people can find if you go, you can use Amazon or any of those places. Well, you could also go to my website, richardbarone.com.
Which I've been posting.
Because what I do there, people could also order it with the album, with Sorrows and Promises, as a bundle.
Okay.
And that's one thing I'm able to do. I can sign them for people, but it's anywhere books are sold also.
I know. It's at Barnes and Noble too, because I went asking. They were out of stock here where I am.
Oh yeah.
They are carrying it at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. And I'll be in Woodstock at the bookstore called the Notebook. What is it? The Golden
Notebook.
I'll be there in March.
Oh, great. When? Do you have the date?
I have the date. You know what? It's not in front of me. Hold on one second. I'll open the calendar. But yes, I'll be there in March, and I'll have Happy Trom with me and Steve Adabo, and we'll do some music. I mean, you should come by. You should come by too.
Yeah, I want to find
definitely come by. So it is it's not on my calendar yet, but it's it's on March 4th.
Okay. Is that a weekend?
Yes, a weekend. It's a Saturday, March 4th. I'll be at the Golden Notebook in Woodstock.
Okay, great. Oh, that sounds great. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll be doing some songs, and maybe we'll have some readings from the book, whatever happens.
Yeah, no, I'm coming. I'm putting it in my calendar now.
Great.
Well, that'll be great. That'll be super fun. Well, anyway, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my show.
My pleasure. You have a great show, and every episode of your show is great.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just feel led to do it. It just feels right. And I'm happy to, I know so many interesting people that I like to share and help them and bring joy through my show.
You do that. You really do it. So thank you for letting me talk about the book. And people can order it at all those places or at my website. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. All right, Richard. Okay. So I love you. It's really great to see you.
Love you, Mindy.
I'll see you March 4th. And all the best to everything. It's just oh wait, I have one more question though.
Yeah.
Is it carried at the schools, or is it going to be in courses?
Yeah. It is also my personal textbook at the new school. This is my textbook.
That's what I figure. Yeah.
Yeah. The school. We've had a lot of schools ordered around the country.
Oh,
so that's great.
Okay, great. That's really cool. Of course, that's fantastic. Okay, Richard. Well, all the best, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm so thrilled I got to read it. And
thank you, Mindy. Thank you.
Talk about it today on my show.
I really appreciate it, Mindy.
It's great, fantastic. Okay, so I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Much love, and we'll see you soon.
Much love. See you soon, Mindy.
Bye. Bye. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed it, whether it's live or in replay with Richard. And let's see. Anybody who's anywhere in the Hudson Valley, March 4th, he's going to be at the Golden Notebook. It'll be great with Happy Trom and Steve Adabo. Okay, so Richard Roland is saying what? Okay, let's meet this summer in Woodstock. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so my next show is Peter Aaron next Thursday, 8:00 Eastern Time. And Peter is the author of If You Like the Ramones and the Band FAQ, the co-author of Richie Ramone's autobiography, I Know Better Now, the arts editor of Chronogram magazine, the frontman of influential New York band, the Chrome Cranks, and a member of the Stabbing Jabs, Peter Aaron, Brian Chase duo, and many other musical projects. Anyway, it goes on and on with him. His writing has appeared in the Village Voice, the Boston Herald, the Kingston Daily Freeman, and others. And he lives in the Hudson Valley. So anyway, that's next week's show. I hope you all can come live or in replay. And I'm going to sign off with my credits. So may you give and receive many smiles. My first button. Much love to you all. Keep smiling, keep sweet. Join the Smile Revolution. And here I go with my credits. Let's see if I can find them. Okay, here they are. Okay. Bye. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile will do. Smile, 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 it comes back to you. Bye.